like I said, they're doing this all without probable cause. They're not inspecting your land. They're just doing sweeps with the satellite program. They're levying the fines. They're scaring the hell out of people, and they're saying, "Pay us some money, and we'll go away." And so we filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of all the people who have been abated, asked for their hearing, and not received one. And we've raised 5 constitutional issues in the case. We basically say that in 5 general ways the county has violated the federal constitution. But when you really break it down, like the first one, it's called procedural due process. When the government accuses you of something, you have a right to be heard. You have a right to a meaningful opportunity to be heard. And the way they've designed this program is, one, you don't get heard at all, so it can't be meaningful. But they've structured the appeal system in a way that even if you are heard, it's not meaningful. They are accusing you without probable cause, and they post a notice in the newspaper to tell all of your neighbors that you have grown cannabis without a permit based on no proof that that's the case. And then that you appeal, they don't give you a hearing. You send images to show that there's no cannabis in your greenhouse. You tear down your greenhouse to show that the greenhouse is gone. They don't care that there's no proof of a violation. They will not dismiss the penalties. And so this all drags out and just burdens people for years until they feel like they have no other choice but to settle their case. And that lack of process in itself violates the Constitution. So that's our first claim, procedural due process. The second one, they call it substantive due process. And basically what it means is, like, the government has no interest in what you do on your land unless you're harming someone else in the community. Because, like, the citizens are the government here, and you just don't have a right to tell people how to use their property unless they're causing some sort of outward harm to the community. And when you take the Thomases and Rhonda Olson and look at they're innocent purchasers, they did not grow cannabis. And so for the county to say that you need to face this penalty of tearing down these structures and paying thousands of dollars in administrative fees because of what someone else did, that doesn't serve a valid governmental interest. And so that violates substantive due process. And we've also argued that by fining people without regard for probable cause, that also violates due process. Like, it's very expensive to be in this system that they've created, and there's reputational damage involved. There's all sorts of costs involved, and they should have to have proof that you have violated the code before they levy these fines, and they're just not doing that. Our third claim is excessive fines, and I don't think I really need to explain that one very much because these fines are insane. Like, Rhonda Olson faces $7.4 million in fines right now, and like, I've been to her property several times. The one, it's literally a vacant piece of land. Like, and there used to be hoop houses, and decades ago, a timber company had graded some of the land to pick up, to like load timber, and the county never had any problem with it. And that we have in writing from the code enforcement department and says, we know that grading might have been there since the 80s, but then someone grew cannabis on that land, so now it all needs to be put back to its pre-cannabis state. And unless you put the land back to its pre-cannabis state, because like the land is somehow now like dirty and tainted because it's had weed on it. So unless you correct that, you're facing $7.4 million of fines. And by the way, you only have 10 days to do so. And our fourth claim is, it's called unconstitutional conditions. And what that means, we talked about Blue, how he tried to participate in the Safe Home program, and they said, we're not giving you the permit for your home unless you settle your abatement case. The government cannot withhold a benefit from you unless you agree to give up one of your constitutional rights. And whether that's your constitutional right to a hearing or the right to something on your property, the government cannot extort you into giving up your constitutional rights in exchange for a permit that you would be entitled to. And so if there's anyone here who that's happened to, we would love to hear about it because it's unconstitutional and we need to put a stop to it. The fifth claim that we brought is under the Seventh Amendment, that you should have a right to a jury on these issues. When you actually do, the few people, there have been over 1,200 abatements, probably closer to 1,300 abatements at this point, and there's something like a dozen people have ever gotten a hearing. And once you do get a hearing, the hearing is before a law firm that the county has hired to decide these cases. And we know that the county has never lost one of these cases because the county brags about the fact that they don't lose cases before the law firm that they hired. When they were trying to pressure Blue into settlements, they sent him text messages and they said, "We don't lose in these hearings. Our hearing officer is not going to decide in your favor. You better just settle the case." And that is why the Constitution guarantees you a right to a jury of your peers, because whether or not you put up that greenhouse on your property with the intent to grow cannabis, it transforms a $100 fine into a $10,000 fine. And that issue of fact about whether you built the greenhouse to grow cannabis, that is something that a jury of your peers should decide and not some law firm that the county hired. And so those are the 5 claims that we brought. We brought them on behalf of Rhonda Olson and the Thomases and Blue Graham, but we also brought them on behalf of a class of people here in Humboldt who have been affected by this program and who have asked for their chance to be heard and have been denied that right by the government. And like the government, we always say the government works for you guys. Literally, you guys are the government. They're just your representatives, and they should be working for you and not trying to extract as much money as they can out of the community under this